Hey Brian, um, how do we get rid of that beam? That's the question. I got to show you some of the problems with trying to get rid of the beam. This is what I proposed. I think that's nice and sleek and clean, but I understand what your objection is. The beam hanging down below there does look more traditional, doesn't look as modern. I think that it looks great, but okay, I've already made my point. Uh, to get rid of it, we either encase it like I showed you, and then to get rid of the gutter, we put a parapet around it and back drain it over the columns, and then you put an interior pipe in there and some couple of scuppers. We talked about that. How do we get rid of this beam? Uh, there isn't a good way. You have to have a beam there structurally to carry all this stuff. This span is 24 feet. That's huge. And when you cantilever it over, it's like 30 feet. It is 35 feet. I don't even know if we can get one that big. If we can, it's a premium. So what I had proposed with this, since we wanted to cover it up and stucco it, I was going to just make one go the 24 feet from here to here and then sandwich a beam alongside this beam to make it cantilever. And then that all covers up inside that stucco box that we're putting in there. So these bolt together and that gives it this. Now you're just buying a 24-foot beam and then a 16-footer. And I can make that cantilever work there, and then you box it. Well, you get the idea. Then if we put a parapet around it to get rid of the gutter, then it turns into what I showed you last time. There's a way to get rid of this, but it makes this facade even bigger. So let's put this back, this parapet. Right now that's 3 feet, and you can see 3 feet, you come across here. It works if we do a roof like this and leave the beam hanging down below. But here, let's go to this. This is I think, easier to grasp. This is what I'd proposed the first time. So this is not using a truss. This is using the TJIs that we talked about. It's a floor truss, but you can use it for this. We use them all the time for this. But to get this to span and carry what it's got to carry, stucco load and everything underneath it, and a roof, it's going to be about a 12-inch deep TJI. So this is actually, the top of that beam's 12 feet, but we're trying to get a 16-inch fascia on the outside and then the rain gutter that goes on there. And so this drops down, and the ceiling on this, to get it flat, this is what I was talking about. If I don't do this, then your ceiling is sloped. It's got the slope of the roof on it. So you come in, you do this, and it hides part of the depth of that beam. That beam's 20 inches deep, so that's a tall beam. This sits on top of it. This is doing all the work of holding up the fascia and this soffit, and then this also attaches to it, and then it stuccos underneath, or gets that stucco into wood that I showed you. There's a little more work of putting a parapet on there that puts a little bit more weight on here, but that beam is sized to handle all that. So with this scenario, you've got an 11-foot 9-ish ceiling in here. You got a 10-foot door here, so that's fine. The bottom of this beam is about 10-foot 4. And what we're doing with this is we're encasing this, we're hiding all this in a big stucco box like that. You know, that's the box that's holding this main thing. You're only going to see that much of it. that's the idea. Let me take this back here. And now, when this slopes up, it comes up underneath this window. This is a section cutting that wall in half. Here's the great room. Ceilings 21 foot 4 inches to the top of the the ceiling there, and then you've got your parapet on top of there. This is actually a double wall. You've got another wall like something like this. It's about like that doubles up. But this is the idea here. What we could do to get rid of the beam, I can't take this beam up into this and cut this beam off here and keep any of this. It won't work here. So what you do is something like this. Keep an eye on this right here. And we've got 11'9" ceiling. Let's take the whole thing, stick it over here, and then we'll take this. And what I'm doing here is pushing that beam up. Get it to stop fighting me. I'm pushing that beam up, and then this rafter goes up on top of it, still doing the work. But now we're encasing the beam, so the bottom of the ceiling is here. Well, that brings that ceiling down, but to 11.6. So your ceiling, a whole ceiling way going across here is 11.6. The beam disappears, and you get this look. Let's go back here. That's clean. But we're not done. This still requires, the way this is right now, it still requires a rain gutter on the end. Otherwise, you're going to be spilling water over this edge and down the stucco, and it's going to make a mess of that stucco. So you need something to carry the rainwater off of that roof and, away from the stucco there. So if we built a parapet on it, and that parapet comes back into here, this becomes a problem right in here. That's the bottom of that window. And before, with the other scenario, I had a 1'3" clearance between the bottom of the window and the roof. That's easy to waterproof. You take about 6 inches of that, and you've got an L flashing and a Z bar and another flashing, and then your stucco, and you can easily waterproof that. Not a problem. But this is a problem. That's way too close to the roof. You're not going to be able to waterproof that adequately. So something's got to give. We either make the window smaller, like even if it gave me, this is actually coming up to here. I got 2 inches, say 3 inches there. I'd be much more comfortable if the bottom of this window it was up 6 more inches. That gives me 8 inches. So the bottom of the window would be here. I've changed, and to do that, I'm changing the windows to 4'6" windows. But that's still tight. It's still tight to make that work. I would be much more comfortable if it were up another 6. And the way to do that is to take this header, shove it all the way up, take this now, 4'6" window up top, gives me plenty of room now to waterproof that and to make this work. And now this parapet though is 3'6". And what that looks like out here, let's just make it do it. 3'6". 3'6" inches. So it makes it heavier. This is what I was looking at when I was making the comments that I didn't like it. It's too heavy. It's too much. So we go through all those gyrations to get rid of the beam, and now you get this massive thing up here. I don't like it. That 6 inches is just, in my opinion, it's too heavy. The whole thing sitting there. I don't like it. I think that the original is the best. You're going to have these gutters that come out and swing down and then go down the face of these, probably in each one of the uh, columns, but I don't see any other way around it. And I think that this is so much cleaner, but it's going to have that beam hanging down. And the bottom of this beam is 10'4". I think that's the best. We can, that's a 20-inch deep beam. That's why it's so difficult to deal with. You've got to run the rafters over the top of it and then encase the thing. And there's just no good way. And if you went steel, it would still be almost as deep. Steel bends. Um, Steel's not as stiff as wood, actually. Um, so I think that this is the best answer. But let me know what you think. We can take this here. I can take this back and shove it in here and give you one more look at it. If you don't mind that, I can make the, and I have to raise these windows up. These aren't showing them raised, and make them smaller, because that's really the, this doesn't show it, but the top of the roof is really right here. After you push that up to encase the beam, I'm just deleting the beam so you don't see it. Top of the roof is way up in here. I just think it's too big. It looks massive. Let me know what you think. Yeah, that's it. Could drop the ceiling more, but all that does is move this down, and I think it looks worse. Okay, well, tell me what you think.